Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espy.
Fastamai, good evening. Welcome to Update, your daily roundup of all things Isle of Man. We've got lots to bring you before 5:30, so here is what's coming up. First, the case of a 28-year-old who's been kept in custody because he's homeless. We'll find out what unfolded in court today. We've also got news on the potential return of the Cregneash bus route. We're told a plan is being worked on. And for any future butchers out there, some positive news is coming your way. Plus, as ever, we'll keep you posted on any traffic and travel issues, and if you have thoughts to share, we'd love to hear from you. Text us 166177, or you can drop an email to studio@manxradio.com. First, let's join Siobhan for a roundup of the main news headlines.
Bus Vannin says disruption to its services today have been because 8 drivers have been absent through illness. While training has already started for a number of new recruits, almost 10% of its full-time driver roles are still vacant. It says more services are likely to be at risk for the rest of the week as a result. Meanwhile, a plan to reinstate the Cregneash bus route is being worked on, according to the chair of a new visitor board on the island. The Department of Infrastructure scrapped the route earlier this year because it was no longer financially viable. The Department of Infrastructure has confirmed that the new seawall on Douglas Promenade must meet all required standards before receiving final approval. The assurance follows concerns raised after we shared a photograph showing visible cracks in the newly built structure. Ramsey residents say they are disappointed by decisions made about the Northern Civic Amenity site. The committee which runs the facility claims Bride Commissioner's choice to stop paying its share of the costs has led to it asking the DOI to pay the £67,000 shortfall. However, the NCAS has come under fire about the changes to opening times, the introduction of ID checks and the closure of the reuse site. And a traditional Manx Winter Fire Festival has been cancelled this year. The Ehowney Festival team say they've run out of time to be able to get all their turnips in a row. The annual Hop Tune event is traditionally held in Peel, but had been set to move to Castletown. Further afield, American officials say they believe Iran is planning an imminent missile attack on Israel. The warning comes after Israeli forces began what it's calling a limited ground incursion targeting Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. A 14-year-old girl has potentially life-changing injuries after a suspected acid attack outside a school in West London. And a round-the-world cruise, which has spent 4 months in Belfast because of engine problems, is facing further delays. The ship, the Odyssey, finally left Belfast last night, but remains anchored off Northern Ireland, apparently because of paperwork. They're your headlines. I'll have your news at 6.
Thanks very much indeed, Siobhan. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. Dry, but largely cloudy. Some clear intervals breaking through at times overnight. Mainly moderate north or northeast winds, and minimum temperatures overnight will be around 10 Celsius. Tomorrow, bright or sunny spells. Still breezy though, a moderate to fresh northeast wind, and maximum temperatures tomorrow of 15. And it'll stay dry on Thursday with further bright or sunny spells. Sunset this evening will be at 6:53. How did it get so early? Sunrise tomorrow morning, 7:23.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
SMS Trading have moved to 3 St Paul's Square, Ramsey. For flat pack to fully built, new or second-hand furniture, SMS Trading offer all-island delivery and man-in-a-van service. Call 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
See the island like you've never seen it before on an incredible chauffeur-driven trike tour. A unique way to make memories that will last a lifetime. Gift vouchers available too. See iomtriketours.com for details and booking.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Beldorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company. Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
If you run a small business or just need more room in the back, Philshaw Vehicles has the perfect van or light commercial for all your needs and can sort out any finance. Based in the Tremode estate, view philshawvehicles.im or call 49 51 49.
You're listening to Update on Manx Radio. It's coming up to 5:05. Now, first, we want to bring you an update on a story we've been following for the past couple of weeks. It concerns the court case of a 28-year-old man who was being kept in custody at the Isle of Man prison because he was homeless. Well, our news editor, Tessa Hawley, joins me in the studio now. Tessa, you were in court again today. Can you tell us if progress has finally been made on this?
Well, it has to a degree. Today at Douglas Courthouse, Jordan Cayley was finally sentenced after weeks of uncertainty about what his punishment would be. Just as a reminder, he'd pleaded guilty to 6 offences, and the recommendation was that he should receive a probation order. But without an address, that was something the Deputy High Bailiff had said she couldn't impose, as it would be setting him up to fail.
And Tessa, you've previously said that significant efforts have been made to find Mr Cayley accommodation. Did that happen?
The short answer to that is no. Now, in court last week, we heard that efforts were underway to have Mr Cayley undergo a mental health assessment. But today, Mr Cayley's advocate confirmed that had not taken place. You also might remember that we talked about the frank assessment of the situation, which a senior probation officer had given the court. Well, that officer returned to court today, and once again her frustration at the situation was evident. She told the court that her superior within the prison and probation service had specifically requested that mental health review, but their request went unanswered by Manx Care. She confirmed that it had been followed up, but again there was no response. And she said despite again asking social care to look at potential accommodation options, there had been no response.
So what did the Deputy High Bailiff make of that?
Well, it's fair to say she wasn't impressed. Rachel Braidwood described it as a very sorry state of affairs, saying custody was now the only option for Mr Cayley, but one which simply wasn't the most appropriate for him. She told the court, "I find it surprising that there's been a lack of response from other agencies."
Was the court told more about the offences that Mr Cayley had committed?
It was. So there were 6 offences, all unconnected, and whilst it's fair to say that any offence which brings you before a court is serious, in the grand scheme of things it was accepted that these offences had been born out of his efforts to get help. In fact, the prosecutor told the court it was his belief that Mr Cayley saw getting arrested as a means to an end in order to try and seek the support he was desperately trying to find.
And what did Mr Cayley's advocates say then?
Well, he started his mitigation for his client by saying he would do his best not to get on his soapbox about the fact that he believed Mr Cayley had clearly been failed. He told the court it was a tragic situation, adding Mr Cayley's actions have on each occasion been a cry for help. His cries for help have gone unanswered due to flaws in the system.
And Tessa, the Deputy High Bailiff sentenced Mr Cayley to 30 weeks in custody, so it does appear that prison was eventually the only option in this case.
That's right. So Deputy High Bailiff Braidwood said it was clear Mr Cayley, who she described as vulnerable and at risk of exploitation, had had a very difficult background and had suffered from a lack of guidance and care throughout his life. Acknowledging his offending was born out of desperation. She said the clear lack of mental health support and suitable accommodation had led him to where he was today. Jailing him, she told him, "It's not the most appropriate sentence for you, but it's literally the only thing I can do for you." She concluded his case by telling the court that she was concerned that without secure accommodation, she was concerned his cycle of offending would continue on his release. And she said, "It's a very sad and very unsatisfactory situation."
Tessa, thank you very much. You can read that report in full at manxradio.com. It's coming up to 9 minutes past 5. A plan to reinstate the Cregneash bus route is being worked on, according to the chair of a new visitor board on the island. The Department of Infrastructure scrapped the route early this year because it was no longer financially viable. Well, Ronald Caldwell is from Destination First.
Well, I think if I take it at a sort of a national level, buses generally, it's not a good look at the moment, but I can assure the listeners that Busvan and indeed DOI are looking seriously at how they address the current issue, but more importantly, look at the solution where we don't actually have it at a level again, or it's minimised. And then the new transport strategy, which will be out shortly, I believe, hopefully, I'm looking to see that is actually covered therein. But particularly in relation to the route to the Sound, Route 28 as it's known, I'm a personal advocate of it. I was working with Russian Heritage Trust to help develop that in partnership with Manx National Heritage, Bus Fannin, the Blue Badge guide holders, the food and beverage providers at the south. And there was a general view that that peninsula is more than just about Cregneash. It's about the chasms, it's about Mull Hill, the RAF station. It's going down watching the seals, etc., to the Calf of Man. So you can spend a long day there, and getting there is very important. And as we move away from the car, maybe it is even more important. It came down to commerciality from a Bus Fannin perspective, that it wasn't covering its costs. Some would argue that there wasn't enough advertising to sell it, and I wouldn't disagree with that. So I think there is a collaborative approach where we can get together and decide what's best and how we best service that. It could well be Bus Fannin, it could well be an independent provider that we did have meetings with to see if they could provide it. They had an issue in terms of capturing the ticket price, but we will be looking at those options to hopefully come up collectively with a solution.
The public, if you like, figuratively threw their arms up and just said, this is Cregneash, this is the south, this is not anywhere, this is an iconic place on the Isle of Man. And if government, DOI, think so little of, the iconic folk villages, you say, then people were just thinking, what hope is there if government can't be bothered with that?
You're right, and very much it falls very much within destination stewardship, and we'll certainly be making the case on how we can support in putting together a package to make it economically viable, not only for visitors who might subsidise resident transport, but it's an issue which is on our list and will be addressed.
That's Ronald Caldwell from Destination First. Just one part of a very busy Man in Line today, and you can listen back to the full programme as a podcast at manxradio.com, or you can watch it as a video on Manx Radio's YouTube channel. It's 11 and a half minutes past 5. Let's turn our attention to business with Ramsey Crookall, and the Isle of Man's Office of Cybersecurity and Information Assurance is warning of fake free online courses adverts which are appearing on social media. Now, what's happening is cyber criminals are impersonating the Department of Education, Sport and Culture, and they're using government logos to make themselves appear more credible. Police are advising residents to be very wary of new and unfamiliar offers that do seem enticing, and to avoid making any payments unless you're really certain an advert is genuine, and any scams can be reported to Facebook. Well, Ramsey Crookall bring us the stock market report, and this evening they tell us that UK and European stocks were lower, erasing earlier gains amid heightened fears of a possible attack by Iran on Israel. Safe haven currencies, the Japanese yen and Swiss franc, gained after news reports that Iran is preparing to imminently launch a ballistic missile attack against Israel. Oil prices surged on fears over that escalating conflict, and gold prices rose as safe haven demand, spurred by that escalation, along with lower US bond yields, pushed prices back near last week's record highs. Well, looking at the commodities, gold finished up 1.10 at $2,663. Brent is up 3.71% at $74.65. At the close, the FTSE 100 was up 0.48% at 8,276. And a short time ago, the Dow Jones was trading off 0.65% at 42,055. And the Nasdaq was off 2.15% at 17,796.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
3:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
Oh.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Well, we're not aware of anything specific on the roads other than the usual roadworks that are happening at various places at the moment. As ever, if you do see something, though, we'd really appreciate you letting us know if you can. 166 177, or you can email studio@manxradio.com. Everything okay down at the steam packet and the airport? Just worth noting that there are some changes to bus schedules. We know that there are a number of bus drivers who are off sick on top of the ongoing vacancies that they have. So if you want a full list of the services which might be affected and the could be some disruption across services, just head over to Manx Radio's Facebook page or our website.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with
Quayside.
It is 5:15. Treasury Minister Alex Allinson has told Manx Radio he believes government departments do have the incentive to stay within budget. Now, this is despite a number of them, as well as Manx Care, predicted to record overspends in the current financial year. And this comes as two MHKs call for a Tynwald member to be appointed to shadow Manx Care's board as part of efforts to reform healthcare.
Andrew Smith is seconding a Tynwald motion very much in his capacity as a backbencher. He discussed the motion with me, and I made it quite clear that any motions he brings need to separate themselves from the actions and opinions of the Treasury Board.
Departments do often overspend, and then the relevant minister returns to Tynwald to ask for more, which is often always approved. While it wouldn't be fair to say that those managing the health finances are intentionally overspending, do you think there's a lack of real incentive for them to ensure that they do stay within budget?
No, I think that incentive is always there. I think both Manx Care and the Department of Health and Social Care recognise the significant budget uplift that they were given in February's budget, but also the significant pressures on that budget that they face. In terms of the overspend, we will be publishing the first quarter management accounts that show a £2.8 million overspend as we speak, which is projected to grow. But I know that projection is not taking into account the significant cost improvements that have already been started by Manx Care and initiated with the department's assistance.
We know that reserves aren't as healthy as they once were. Will there ever come a point where Treasury and Tynwald members collectively decide to take a tougher stance and say, no, enough is enough?
Treasury and Tynwald have actually had a much tougher stance in terms of departmental overspends when these haven't been accounted for. What we saw back in February this year was a significant overspend by a number of departments that was reluctantly agreed for by Tynwald in terms of a supplementary vote, because it was recognised that with the high inflation figures we've seen over the last 2 years and increased wage demands we've seen as well, that increased money does have a responsibility with it that has to be accounted for properly. And that's what Treasury and Tynwald will be doing.
That is the Treasury Minister Alex Allinson speaking to Christian there. 5:17. Another Northern MHK says there needs to be a round-table discussion with all parties involved in operating the Northern Civic Amenity Site. The Joint Committee which runs the facility is blaming the decision by Bride Commissioners to pull out of paying into the site for changes to opening times, ID checks and the closure of the reuse area. Local Democracy reporter Emma Draper has this report.
It's led the NCAS Joint Committee asking the Department of Infrastructure to pay the £67,000 shortfall left by Bride Commissioners. MHK for Aaron Michael Tim Johnston says the local authority needs to meet with the committee to come to a resolution.
The important thing is at the end of the day is we have a functioning site for everybody. What that looks like, how that's structured and paid for, is something that DOI need to engage the Northern Amenity Site over and all those local authorities that are involved in that. So I'd certainly urge that process happens, because ultimately that's what we all want at the end of the day, is an opening, functioning, efficient site. Clearly, the model has broken down. That's not a sustainable situation. So as soon as everyone sort of sits down and talks about that and comes forward with plans, the better.
Since April, the NCAS has introduced a number of changes to how the amenity site operates, the majority of which have been blamed on Bride Commissioners' decision to leave the group. I went to Ramsey and spoke to some residents about how the changes have been affecting them.
My daughter and I are devastated about it because I even used it as a library. I used to take books and bring books back, and it was so handy. We actually, we moved here not so long ago, and it was wonderful how you could get things like bookcases and cupboards for nothing.
I think the reuse site is really a useful thing. The fact that it's not open in the several days, it doesn't open late at any time, so people that are working find difficulty getting there. So I think it could be better.
Found an Art Deco sofa and we took it home, used it for about a year. I gave it to the Jerbian Northern Communities Initiative for them to sell, and I think they raised about £2,500 from it. But yeah, I'm really upset about the amenity site.
The Department of Infrastructure has previously told me it committed in April to work with the Northern Civic Community Site Joint Committee, and this remains the case.
Emma Draper reporting. Coming up to 19.5 minutes past 5, more than £7.5 million has been paid to airlines in government subventions since the 2021 general election. This figure has been revealed in response to a Tynwald question from Douglas Central MHK Chris Thomas, as Sean Cowper reports.
Mr Thomas asked what subventions have been provided to airlines during this administration. Treasury Minister Alex Allinson confirmed just over £2.1 million was provided in the 2022-23 financial year, more than £4.1 million the following year, and £1.325 million so far in the current financial year. The money has come from the Contingency Fund and Economic Strategy Fund. Dr Allinson lists several reasons for providing such subventions, including securing connectivity to London for business and leisure, securing north-west routes and patient transfers, and improving resilience by ensuring more than one carrier on core routes. He goes on to say when the subventions were introduced, it was at a time of reduced connectivity as the airline industry was recovering from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, resulting in limited capacity. The Department for Enterprise had identified limited options for customers with hugely variable pricing. As a result, objectives for airline subventions were identified, including ensuring reliability, frequency and an island-based carrier. Dr Allinson says the subvention has ensured stability to all of these aspects.
Sean Cowper reporting. Now, Isle of Man Meats has launched a new butchery apprenticeship programme. Now, this comes as there's growing global shortage of skilled butchers as experienced employees retire and fewer young people enter the trade. This 18-month course gives the students hands-on training to learn the essential skills. Kelly Corlett is from Isle of Man Meats.
We know on the island that people's shopping habits have changed. So you used to have your local grocer, your local fishmonger, your local butcher. Fewer butchers on island now, fewer stores. What we're aiming to do is to bring that back, those sorts of heritage skills, those things that's really important to us as a culture, as an island. We are a UNESCO biosphere. We absolutely value what our producers send to us. So we want best in class to be able to process that, as I'm sure our butchers out there want to experience this new young generation coming through and working closely with us on that.
Why is it you think that there are fewer people who are wanting to get into butchery now?
I think the awareness of the potential that you could do it. So we are aware that there's apprenticeships on island, like in nursing, like in engineering and construction. They're the ones that people know mostly about. What they're not as aware about is the likes of opportunities where you're a practical type of person, you want to use your hands in your day-to-day. So something like butchery is a phenomenal skill to have. Same with fisheries, those two are in crisis. You don't have an awful lot of young people thinking about going into these industries. However, you can travel the world, you know. New Zealand are always looking for butchers.
There is probably a bit of pressure for you guys to try and retain some people at least.
Yes, absolutely. We don't want that throughput for them to leave us too soon. So the intention is, we train them up and keep as many staff as we can. We've got producers out there who are producing fantastic livestock that comes through here, which of course our apprentices and the rest of our population here work hard to make sure the quality of what goes out is sustained.
That is Kelly Corlett from Isle of Man Meats with some really positive news about this apprenticeship. And actually we spoke to two apprentices, Harry Lewis and Ethan Perry, who are the first to take on this course. You can listen to their full interview at the latest Manx Radio newscast, which you can find at manxradio.com, or just head over to the website. 23.5 minutes past 5. It's sporty time. Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I. Well, starting with cricket, and after two more impressive victories yesterday, the Isle of Man men's T10 squad is back in European Cricket Championship action in Spain today. In the first of three playoff matches for the Manx side at Qatar Oval in Malaga, they suffered an 8-wicket defeat to Greece early this afternoon, despite the Isle of Man's Charlie Webster managing an unbeaten 103 not out in an impressive solo innings. The only one to outclass Webster was Greece's Sinan Khan, who managed a sensational 110 runs to help them to victory. Well, in the last 20 minutes, the Isle of Man completed its second game of the day, and it's been another 8-wicket defeat, this time at the hands of Estonia, who they've faced for the fifth time at this event. Estonia successfully chased down the Isle of Man's score of 164 with 2 overs to spare, including a century from Estonian batsman Sahil Chauhan. The Isle of Man's final match of the day will see them take on Greece again tonight at 7:30 p.m. Elsewhere, Manx amputee footballer Sean Jackson and Everton have been crowned England Amputee Football League champions for 2024. The Ireland competitor and his team secured the silverware on Saturday following a 1-1 draw with title rivals Portsmouth in the EAFL Championship decider. As a result, Everton finished the campaign on 27 points, 3 points clear of their South Coast opponents in second. Well, the player himself, who signed for the Merseyside club in 2023, made a long-awaited debut for the team this year, having missed the entirety of last year's campaign due to rupturing his anterior talofibular ligament in 2022. And in cycling, Manx elite cyclist Lizzie Holden was a non-finisher as she and Great Britain contested the 2024 UCI Road and Paracycling Road World Championships in Switzerland at the weekend. The Ireland competitor joined Eleanor Barker, Anna Henderson, Josie Nelson, Claire Steels and Alice Towers in the GB squad, which took on the elite women's road race on Saturday. Well, Britain's highest finisher, the finish in Zurich, was Henderson in 21st place. Towers came home 32nd overall and finished 5th in the under-23 standings, whilst Barker crossed the line in 61st. Steels and Nelson joined Holden as DNFs. The race was won by current women's world number 1 Lotte Kopecky of Belgium, whilst the USA's Chloe Dygert finished second, and women's world number 3 Elisa Longo Borghini of Italy completed the podium in third.
Thank you very much indeed, Rob. And we should say, if you want to keep up to date with the very latest sports news, we've got a dedicated Facebook page.
We have indeed. The Manx Radio Sports Hub, you can access it over at manxradio.com. And as we've been hearing time and time again with regards to the Manx Radio newscast, sport has its own equivalent, the Manx Radio Sportscast, and has extended interviews, match highlights in football, and also shows you can listen back to as well, Friday Sport Preview and Saturday Sport Classified as well. That is all available in the podcast section at manxradio.com.
Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed, Rob. So you do not need to miss out on any of the latest sport action that is taking place. Head over and just like and follow that page. That is pretty much all from Update this evening. Thank you very much indeed for your company. Next up, it is tonight's Island Life programme, and it's another chance to hear an episode of the very popular Manx Radio series Memories in Music. And tonight, the late great Bernie Quayle is in conversation with Richard Milky Quayle, and this was a programme recorded back in 2005. After that, it's Greatest Hits Live with Chris Kinley from 6. That'll be followed by The Folk Show with John Barker at 9, before Dave Moore joins you from 10 with After Hours. And as ever, if there's anything you want to let us know about, particularly from a news point of view, good news, bad news, serious news, something you'd like us to look into, you can always contact the team at newsroom@manxradio.com. Whatever you're doing tonight, enjoy your evening, and we'll be back at 5 tomorrow with more from Update.